Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm getting back on a roll of pushing my shows out, as I admitted to last week on Live Life Driven, that I've been delaying some of these shows. And today I'm super excited about having a friend of mine on the show who I got to know through my off-road world, which has been just a wonderful place to meet people and grow my career the last 20 years. And I have on the line today, Renee Rouleau, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
Hey, Jim. I'm doing awesome. I'm here in Austin, Texas. Great city to live in.
Yeah, you know, I've visited there many times. I think the traffic's getting a little heavy for me, but I certainly love the culture and Austin itself for what it stands for.
Yeah, yes, lots of traffic, but yes, an amazing city.
So what made you move to Austin, by the way? I should have asked you before the show, but...
Actually, great question. So I had lived in Dallas for 19 years, started my skincare company there, and my late husband, Florian, who you know, we were down in Austin for a weekend. And while we were there, so this is like 6.5 years ago or so, 6 years ago, and an article posted on Facebook from a friend of mine, and it was titled "Staying is Settling: Why You Need to Move 5 Times in Your Life." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, what's this?" And so I read it, and it basically said that, you know, life is about getting out of your comfort zone, saying yes, you know, opening your world to, you know, looking at the world in a new way, learning and growing, etc. So it was a really inspiring article, and I showed it to him, and he was like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." And the next morning he said, "Let's move." And I said, he goes, "I've been thinking about that. It's time to move." And I said, "What?" I said, "You know, the company is here in Dallas. Like, we can't move. We have employees, the whole thing." And he said, "Let's go." And my heart's racing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so we talked about all the different cities we could probably, you know, possibly move to. And we decided on Austin. And 6 months later, we relocated our entire company to Austin. And I mean, we had, our company was smaller then, but we had 2 people come with us. But yeah, it was literally just seeing this post on Facebook.
That's awesome. You haven't even been on the show for 2 minutes and you've already given a great piece of wisdom. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Now, when a lot of people think about Austin, they think about 6th Street and, you know, partying and all the music, but it's so much more than that. I saw some of your photos on your Instagram, swimming in, you know, what is it, the Barton River or something like that?
Barton Springs.
Barton Springs. And yeah. You know, you've got the Golden Spur out there. You've got great country music. Aaron Watson spends a lot of time over there playing. And there's just really a neat culture and vibe outside of the core city itself that I've enjoyed about Austin. You know, there's some great breweries out there in the country and, just neat people out there. Yeah,
there's lots of opportunity for having fun and getting outdoors and to adventure. So actually a fun thing for 2 nights before Halloween, I'm doing zip lining at night, but it's a haunted zip line.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be super fun. And then Halloween night, I'm doing kayaking down the river in downtown Austin with a full moon. And it's kind of a trick-or-treat themed kayaking night. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's lots of fun opportunities to get out, be active, be healthy, that sort of thing.
One more piece of inspiration for the listeners before I get into your story. I don't want to hack up what you said, but there was a post and you mentioned something about doing something exciting every day or thrilling every day or something like that. What's that all about?
Yeah, do something every day that exhilarates you. So I always kind of, I call them kind of a buzz or cheap thrills, but like anything that just kind of, you know, brings me a little excitement and, you know, gets my heart racing. I'm always looking for that. And so like the other day, actually, when I went to Barton Springs, which is a natural spring pool in downtown Austin, a lot of times I'll just jump in and get it over with. And the few times that I've walked in, just slowly down the stairs, it's super, super cold and I'm screaming and yelping and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I challenged myself the other day to walk down the stairs, expressionless, poker face, and just like challenge my brain to just like, embrace the suck and be in control about it.
Okay.
So it's just like, little things like that. I ate crickets the other day, just little things that like just put a bounce in my step and give me a little extra adrenaline.
I love it. Well, Samantha and I will challenge you to fly up to Whitefish, Montana. We're going to be running this afternoon, and I think it's going to be 5-degree weather and 7 inches of snow coming down. So we're on an extreme training program called 75 Hard. It's 2 workouts a day.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
amazing.
Well, one has to be outside, and the snow's starting to drop. So, anyways,
oh my gosh! Well, congrats.
Thank you. So let's talk about your story, because I'm so intrigued. By what you've done, and you started your company at such a young age. You've told me 26 years old. Can we dip beyond just a little bit past or before that? What was your upbringing like, and how did you become an entrepreneur at such a young age?
Yeah. So I grew up youngest of 4 kids. My dad was in retail, and he, grew up, real poor and a lot of struggles in his family. And he wanted to make he was very driven and ambitious and wanted to make, a better life than what he had, and better life, for his children than his childhood. And so he, paid his way through college. He lived in the Midwest in Minnesota, moved out of that, out of the town he grew up in, and just was really successful in his career. And so what that meant was, as he was kind of climbing the ladder of success and new opportunities were coming his way, we had to move every 2 to 3 years as a child. So from kindergarten to my senior year in high school, I was in 7 different schools. And so, there were so many times, middle of the school year, my dad sits the family down and he's like, "Hey, I've accepted this job. We're moving." And in fact, one of the moves, he told me on a Friday, and we moved that Monday.
Wow. We're going.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, so anyway, but I share this because when I look at, my life, I embrace change. And so that programmed me that you don't hang on to things for too long. So in my life, I also don't like clutter, because we had to move all the time. And, so I don't like stuff, because that's just stuff. So, but at the same time, I think, the decision to move to Austin and how it got my heart racing was because I had lived in Dallas for 19 years and didn't realize that I was really itching for some change. And so I, even though, middle of the school year, always being pulled out of school and moving, I mean, that's awful as a child. I mean, that's especially in your junior high and your high school years. But I think that really made me embrace change. And I think that's been kind of the underlying theme of my life is I'm always looking to do something different and something new and something to challenge myself. And so that's been great. Versus, somebody that just never moved out of the one place they've lived in. They never saw the world in a different way. And so I love change. I love travel as a result of that. So fast forward, they say with the youngest of 4 children, by the time you get to the 4th child, you let them juggle knives. And so I was definitely the wild one in my family. I definitely gave my parents, the most gray hair for sure. And, but I also, my dad had set out to, he wanted to provide a college education for his children and give them, the best path. And so when I was in high school, one of the towns we moved to, was outside of Boston, Massachusetts, in the suburbs. And it had he wanted, his kids to be in public school, but it was the number 1 best ranked public school in the state of Massachusetts. And Massachusetts, as you know, with MIT and Harvard and whatnot, it's a very academic state anyway. So the fact it was number 1 meant, there's a lot of smart people there. And so I was so I like to say, we all think of like the 1%ers or whatever. And I was the 1% of my high school class that didn't go to college. So 99% went to college. And
Yeah.
I remember like talking to my guidance counselor, my junior year or whatever. And he's like, so, where are you thinking of going to college? I'm like, not my path. Like I'm, too wild. I can't sit still. Like I just, I don't like school. I don't like studying, whatever. And he literally, it was just like looking through his
What do I do?
manual. Like, I don't think we have a chapter in here that tells me how to guide children that don't want to go to college. And so I ended up, my grandmother on my mom's side was a hairstylist. She owned her own hair salon. She was a single mom, real hardworking woman in the Midwest in Wisconsin. And so I grew up kind of, seeing the world of beauty, and that's what I chose as my path. But I did the skincare path. So I became an esthetician, which is like a facialist. And then worked at a salon for 2 years, and I had my mentor. She was 13 years older than me. That was my coworker. She always wanted to open up her own business, and she saw talent in me, and she said, hey, I want to open up a business, but I have 2 young children and I don't want to do this alone. You want to be my business partner? And so at age 21, so this is 1991, we left the salon and I opened up a skincare salon outside of Boston with her. And so that was, 21 years old. I was managing employees. All my friends were going off, having a great time at college. And I had all this responsibility, but at the same time, I was always super driven and just, workaholic, I guess. And so we had that for 5 years, very successful. But then the need for change in me, started to fire up again. And I just got antsy and wanted to change my life and do something different. And so I sold half of the business. Her and I are still good friends. And I set my sights on Dallas. I was really into country music, and I had a big crush on Troy Aikman, who was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, who ended up becoming my client years later.
Wow.
But I was like, well, if I want to marry Troy's in Dallas, so I guess that's where I need to be.
Right.
And so I started Renee Rouleau Skincare in Dallas, starting with the skincare spa, and this was in 1996. Eventually started creating products, and now we're a 100% e-commerce company. Fast forward 24 years. But in Dallas, just being, I moved there not knowing anybody, all by myself, and the culture. I'd never lived in the South before, and so that was a lot to navigate, and wasn't sure if people would like a Yankee coming in and supporting my business, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, that was definitely a big leap of faith, and it worked out great.
So Renee, you worked with this partner for 5 years, and you decide, okay, I'm itching to do something on my own. Did you write a business plan? Or, you named it after yourself, which is a bold and great move. But what made you think that you could go down to Dallas and just make this thing run?
Yeah, just being fearless. Just being fearless. You can do it. And no, I didn't go to college. I didn't have any formal business training, and there was just no support to figure it out. But I think I had learned a lot with my business partner, because she was 13 years older than me. Her husband was a CPA. So, that was a training, if you will.
Yeah.
And, but just being fearless. Just young and fearless. And so as you get older, you become a little more fearful. And so I'm always trying to push that, like I look back on some of the things I used to do and I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? But it was like, hey, it worked out.
Yeah. But by the way, I asked that question for the listeners with the article from Inc. magazine in front of me about you, right? So clearly you went down there with some confidence and challenged yourself to run a business. What were the first steps when you arrived to Dallas? Did you have to find a storefront, and the intimidating factor of, wow, what's the rent? Can I afford the rent? How long can I last? All that stuff. Because those are intimidating decisions that people have to make when they consider starting their own business. And clearly it worked out for you. So what were some of your thought processes?
Yeah, when you're in retail, so like I said, I started with the skincare spa. We did facials and skin treatments. And so we, offered skincare services. But you have to sign a 5-year lease. That's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And you can't just go, oh, this doesn't work out. They hold your feet to the fire and make you pay that. So so I did, it was a lot of research I had to do ahead of time, because I had a client once